starting in 3, 2, 1. What is going on, everybody? Epic Gamers here, unless you're with the IRS. And today, we are going to be having a pretty interesting discussion over a game that we have come to really enjoy. You know, I'm going to take that back. A game that we play. I'm just being honest.
You don't enjoy it?
No, it brings us pain. But today I'm here with my friend Davian. Say hello, Davian.
Hi.
And we're going to talk about Dead by Daylight. Now, Dead by Daylight, for those of you who have been living under a rock for the past 5 years, is a game where it is 1 killer versus 4 survivors. And the whole point of the game is for the 4 survivors to power 5 generators that eventually opens exit gates that gets them to escape and live off the rest of their lives until they get thrown right back into the same game again. And then for the killer, it's to kill all 4 of the survivors and prevent that from happening. Now, there's different things that we're going to talk about in this video. For instance, when we got into DBD, the balance, like debate about it, perks, playstyles, and etc. So yeah, we're just gonna start with, I guess, the first bullet. I'll go ahead and timestamp all of this for those of you who care. So yeah, the first topic is, when did we get into Dead by Daylight?
It was around 2017 when it first came out for PS Plus. That was the first time we actually started playing it.
And ever since then, we more or less just kind of been on and off, right? Like, yeah.
I didn't touch it for a year because remember I ran out of PS Plus.
Yeah, same. And then like I kept playing it, but I only played it like casually. It wasn't like as difficult and freaking competitive as I did, you know, once we all got our PCs.
Yeah, I got back into it a little bit. Well, not a little bit, a lot of it.
Yeah, because
before I got my PC, I was still on PS4.
Yeah, you reached round 1 for PlayStation, didn't you?
Mm-hmm. And I had Devotion 2. I had Devotion 2 also.
Yeah, I don't know how you did that. I'm gonna be 100% with you.
And I had crossplay on it, wasn't it?
I bet it was.
Racing against those PCs.
Oh goodness, I can only assume. That was terrible. No, but I remember first seeing who was it? Shield Chaos and Scene Enters. Do you remember those people? The YouTubers?
I heard, yeah, Scene Enters. I remember seeing some clips with them, but I never actually watched them.
No, I remember.
And I don't know who Shield Chaos is, though.
It was just a guy who he played with. Well, not just a guy who he played with, obviously. He's successful enough to be like a pretty decent sized YouTuber. It's just, yeah, so I remember watching them, like, when the game more or less just came out. And I remember that it just came out because just looking at the differences between then and now, oh my gosh. But just seeing them and, like, watching them play and stuff, I'm like, oh, this looks awesome. And so I tried to get it on the laptop that I had. It wasn't it. Let's just say that. And then so I ended up like kind of stopped getting into it. But then it came out on PlayStation, and I think you had downloaded it because didn't you already have Friday the 13th?
Yeah, I had Friday the 13th at the time.
And then Dead by Daylight came out, and then it was like, oh, this is kind of similar to Friday the 13th. And I'm like, yo, bet I remember this game. So we downloaded it. We've been playing it ever since. Like I said, on and off for the most part, and then on, and now, as you can see from my killer rank too, just on continuously. So yeah.
My only game. I have no others.
All right, and then to the next question, the one that's probably going to get a lot of people triggered: is the game truthfully balanced?
No. It's not.
No, it is not. It is most definitely not.
So I'll say this: the lower ranks, I'd say it's killer-sided because survivors won't. I mean, they both won't really know what they're doing, but killers would have an advantage over being able to just attack survivors, and survivors won't know how to loop and all that. But once you get to the higher ranks, then that's where it becomes an issue because you're going against 4 people with 4 perks. That's 16 perks against 4, and 4 people that know what they're doing against 1 person, and that's where it becomes the issue.
And do you think Like, what would you say, like, the actual, like, level cutoff I guess is there? What do you think that would be for killers and all that?
I'd say from green going into purple.
Green going into purple, so like level 9
Yeah.
is kind of the cutoff.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Anything green and above would be like, it'd still be considered low rank, in my eyes at least.
Yeah, because I was going to say kind of the same thing. Like, you have to understand that this game, like you said, it's a 4v1 by default. Even if you take away all the perks and everything like that, all perks, all offerings and stuff like that, and put it on the most balanced map in the game. If you don't know what you're doing, compared to if you do know what you're doing, it's going to determine, like, how, I guess, easy it is for you to play the game. The game is very much not in a balanced, like, way for a lot of reasons, but like Davian you already pointed out, the main reason is because it's a 4v1, you know? Like I said, no perks, no nothing, it's still a 4v1, so there's still no guarantee that the killer is gonna even be able to get a single kill. And it's like, well, that makes sense. Like when you say it out loud and think about it. A lot of people don't when they talk about this game.
And then, also I was going to say, when you look at Friday the 13th, that's very different from Dead by Daylight.
Yeah.
Because even though there's more survivors in there than there are in Dead by Daylight, Jason can always end up getting what 2-3 kills a match, even if he's bad.
Yeah, and that's also because of the fact that just unlike Dead by Daylight, I feel like that is less strategy and more like actually slasher based. You know what I mean? Because you go in that thing and you hit somebody like one time, you know, with the freaking machete, and now like the next hit you can kill them already. You know what I mean? Like, it's...
Well, it does take a few hits depending on their health, what survivor they're playing, because some survivors will have more hit points than others. But I think the least hits that you can do as Jason would probably be 4 or 3. But the thing is, the survivors in there, they don't run that fast. That's why.
Yeah, so it's a lot easier to get.
Compared to Dead by Daylight, they don't have that speed boost that you get when you get hit.
Yeah, and then not only that, like you actually have like an exhaustion stat, like an actual I wouldn't say an exhaustion status.
Stamina bar.
Yeah, stamina bar. That's
yeah.
You actually do get tired in that game, meaning that the survivors have to be a little bit more strategic with it. Yeah, the killer is pretty much by default slower, but I mean, if you're not smart with how you use your stamina, how you pick your characters and stuff like that, it's different, and it doesn't work the same way they did by Daylight. Dead by Daylight, you can be as dumb as you want with just about every perk, every stat in the game, and still end up getting a win in higher ranks as a survivor. I mean, technically, you can do the same thing as a killer. I'm not going to be completely biased in that fact. But if you don't know what you're doing, or you don't play correctly in this game, the consequences for it are immensely less than that of Friday the 13th. But we also do have to kind of understand that they are two completely different games. But like I said again, like true balancing would mean that any given map, any given match, in any given rank, more or less, both sides have about an equal opportunity to win, no matter what. That's what true balance is, and I don't think that this game could ever reach that. Like, I'm gonna be 100% with you, it can't. It just can't.
Yeah.
Because if it did, then people like Ots, people like me, for example, even, like, I'm not comparing myself to Ots, the man has 5,000 hours plus in freaking Dead by Daylight, but like somebody, like I said, like myself, who's actually pretty proficient when it comes to killer, the fact that me and him can't more or less maintain, like, rank 1 is ridiculous. Like, how many times have you seen Ots at rank 3, 4, stuff like that, like 2s and stuff like that, because one loss at rank 1, for both sides, it's not just for killers, it's for both sides, but one loss at rank 1 for a killer or a survivor means you're back at rank 2, and then if you keep losing, going from there. And it's difficult to keep that ranked 1. I feel, personally, like I said, this is an opinion, I feel that it's a tad bit more difficult for killers to keep it, just because of the fact that the actual amount of stuff that they have to do in order to keep it. I have Discord notifications on, why? I'll turn that off later. But frickin' the fact that, how do I say it? Like I said, that the killer has to get a certain amount of hooks, or, you know, do everything else in the map, more or less, in order to safety pit, as opposed to a survivor, more or less, just not even necessarily needing to escape all the time. But with a killer, for example, there's 3 different levels to actually getting it, which makes it kind of helpful, I'm not gonna lie. But I mean, to get to just the brutal killer status, it's actually kind of a lot per game. You have to do pretty well per game, like, especially in higher ranks and stuff, to even get brutal killer, let alone ruthless or merciless.
Yeah, when I do, you know how I do my 2 hook strats, right? I'll only keep getting brutals. I will never get ruthless doing that strat.
Yeah, because you have to, I think for ruthless, I think you have to get at least 1 kill, correct? Yeah, so it's like 1 kill and then max hooks for that kill. So meaning that only 3 hooks can be remaining. You need at least 9 full hooks for you to get that. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty sure this was a glitch, but I got a merciless one time by maxing out all of my stuff and getting all but 1 kill. Like I said, it could have been a glitch.
I also got a merciless. I don't think it's a glitch, as long as one survivor, as long as one survivor is either dead or alive, I'm pretty sure you can still get a merciless.
So you can get a merciless, and it's not the craziest thing in the world to get. I'm not gonna lie, especially at lower ranks, for people who are 9 to all the way up to 20. Like, it's not the most difficult thing to get a merciless as a killer. Just as, on the other hand, it's not that difficult for a survivor to succeed, even in a solo queue. So, that's just, the game can't be balanced for the very simple reason that if it is balanced, that means that the way that the game will be played the way that the game is going to decline dramatically. Because it's going to seem too easy for either side to make a drastic play that completely alters the way that the game is going to be played. Because like I said, if anybody could, just going back to the actual definition of being balanced, both sides have an equal chance of winning the match, no matter what. If it's like that, then that means that the killer could make 1 play, 1 correct play, and he completely dominates the rest of the match. Or, on the other hand, one of the 4 survivors makes 1 play and completely dominate, and the survivor side now completely dominates the rest of the match. If it's a 50-50, that means that any time that one person does something slightly above 50, means that they already have the advantage. So it can no longer be a balanced game. Making something like this balanced would therefore unbalance every individual game, as opposed to trying to balance the game as a whole. So, it sucks, but no, the game is not balanced. And I guess that's kind of what gives it the satisfaction, I guess, for killers. I mean, technically for both sides, but I feel more so for killers at higher ranks to actually win. You know what I mean? Like, to win, or for the survivors to escape. I feel like that's what kind of gives it that immense amount of satisfaction most of the time. It's because of the fact that it's like, well, this game is already kind of not balanced, so the fact that I'm able to win still, it feels great. You know what I mean?
Be able to talk trash in game chat.
We'll get to that later. The next thing I wanted to talk about, though, perks. My lord. Perks. Oh gosh, where do I begin? Where do we begin? Do we begin with killers or with survivors?
Want
to start with killers since you know a little bit more about that?
Sure.
Alright. So, killer perks, they're alright. I'm gonna be 100%. They're okay. Now,
Like half are good, half are bad.
yeah,
There's no in between.
for the most part, like the most quote unquote, I guess, in between perks are ones that do change how your character acts and stuff like that. Like for example, agitation or iron grasp. Iron grasp, I'm gonna be 100% with you, kind of becomes useless once you get into freaking purple and red. I'm gonna be just 100% with you because at that point you kind of already know how much time you have for like every time that you pick somebody up. And I mean that what was it, 12% that it gives you? It gives you 12%.
Oh, 12%?
Yeah, like
an
an extra 12%.
For iron grass, right?
Yeah.
Let me see. How was it? It's 12% for
So
time
extra
to struggle.
12%. For example, because the usual time for struggle, I'm going to say is anywhere between 14 to 16 minutes. I mean, minutes. Good lord. 14 to 16 seconds. But Iron Grasp makes it another 12%. Now you may be thinking, hey Epic, what is that change in the thing? That adds about 3 seconds. Okay? So it turns 14 to 16 seconds into 17 to 19 seconds. Now, if you look at it from the least to the most, yeah, that's actually a pretty drastic change. However, let's be 100% honest here, it's not gonna do that much. And the other effect of Iron Grasp is that you don't move around so much when you're carrying somebody. And I mean,
The only time it'll help is when all the survivors are bringing the offerings for the hooks.
yeah, that's the only time that I could ever see it even somewhat helping.
And
Because
I've only seen that in an actual match maybe twice.
yeah, because like for the most part, whenever you have Iron Grasp or whatever, you gotta remember, like, the only thing that it does, it just makes it to where, because it doesn't make you faster, you know what I mean? It doesn't do anything like that. It just makes it to where you move, like, smoother. It does, because the other effect of Iron Grasp makes it to where 75% of all, like, I guess, movement penalties, I guess you can call it, for a survivor struggling is negated. So, therefore, you only get about 25% of that, which is just, it's fine. I'm not gonna lie, it's fine, but it's just the wiggling and the actual effect of it does so little. It's more or less just a nuisance to killers that they'd rather just deal with instead of running a whole perk to try and change that. It's stupid. So yeah, I put that in the like one of the only like in between perks, and I put that with agitation as well because agitation just makes it faster. But it's such a drastic boost that if you're running that with a freaking build, that could actually do some real damage. Like, if you have a, like, carrying survivor build, like, if you run agitation with mad grit or something, that's a pretty powerful build. You can low-key walk across the entire map so long as you hit a survivor correctly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, also I was gonna say, most perks really don't truly shine until they're in a certain build.
Yeah. That is also
So if
true.
you're really just looking at the perk by itself, it's not really.
Like for example, freaking what is it? Retribution. Retribution by itself is a horrible perk. I'm gonna be 100%. It is awful. What the frick?
You're
is the
only
point?
seeing 10 people for or people for 10 seconds one time.
And that's only if they even decide to cleanse the totem, because you have to remember, once you get to higher ranks and stuff like that, most people aren't looking for totems half of the time. Like, half the time, they're not looking for totems. The only time that they actually go looking for a totem is if they understand that they're under a hex. Or if they're just running by. And that's
mostly ruin.
Yeah, and it's mostly ruin, like that you'll see, like, every occasion you'll get, like, a haunted ground. But for the most part, it's almost always going to be ruin. Which brings me back to ruin and other hex perks. Hex perks are, again, I feel like they fall into the okay category. I feel like all of them do. And that's the main reason why I feel that they do fall into the okay category is because they can be cleansed. Every last hex in this game can be cleansed. And in some instances, like for Noed, we'll talk about that in a minute. Like for Noed, it's cleansed before the thing even starts. Before you even get the effect of Noed, you can destroy and get rid of Noed. And that's terrible in a lot of different regards. Now, don't get me wrong. Most hex perks are actually extremely powerful. Like Huntress's Lullaby, that is a very, very strong perk. That pair that with Ruin and
It doesn't get cleansed the first 30 seconds.
Yeah, say it again.
I said if it doesn't get cleansed the first 30 seconds.
Yeah, I'm assuming that it's not getting cleansed right away. But you know,
I was gonna say this for Survivor said there's 3 perks that they can use to find totems.
Yep.
And one of them isn't even a character locked on.
Nope, small game,
perk.
Yeah. But
anyone can put it.
Yeah, anyone can put it on, so long as you get in the blood one. But the thing that hurts most hex perks is that most of the time, if you're not playing a trapper killer, and a lot of the time, even if you are, when you're not playing a trapper killer or whatever the case is, and you run a hex perk, like you said, it gets cleansed within the first minute. Like within the first minute of the entire game, half the time it gets cleansed. Because I don't know if that's just my luck, but I always get the worst hex spawns possible. It might as well just be in the smack dab center of all the survivors when they spawn, bro. It's so bad, and then it gets cleansed right away. It's like, I can't get over there that fast. I'm playing nurse and I can't do that.
Your whole build is ruined.
Yeah, because
at that point.
Because you're down a perk now. Like you haven't, because that's the thing. In order for most of the hex perks, we'll get into the ones that are trash. But for most hex perks and stuff like that, the main point of it is that you can use it, but almost every single hex perk, I'm gonna say this, almost every hex perk needs something to make it good. Every one. Whether it be Devour Hope or Huntress's Lullaby, where you actually have to do something as a killer in order to stack up, to get stacks for it, or it is something like Ruin, to where you have to pressure survivors off of generators. Like, and even to Haunted Grounds. For Haunted Grounds to even work as a perk at all, they are forced to cleanse it. And if you're running more than one hex perk that is like, because like I said, unless they just so happen to pass by it, or they're looking for it, they're not going to cleanse it. And what's the best way to have them look for it? Put another perk with it. But here's the thing, you never get to know what perk the hex is on, even as a killer. As a killer, you never understand which hex perks are occupying which totem. Because if I'm going to be 100% honest with you, if I'm running Haunted Grounds, Devour Hope, and then Thrill of the Hunt, like, I would prefer to be able to see which totems are which. Because that means 4 out of the 5 totems are lit, and I don't know which ones do which. So it's like, on one hand, it's like, I want them to cleanse totems because I want my Haunted Grounds to go off. But how am I supposed to have the Haunted Grounds go off if I don't know which totems they are? That could get rid of my Thrill of the Hunt. That could get rid of my Devour Hope. All before they even get to the last 2, which are now undoubtedly Haunted Grounds. And it's terrible. And then you have, on the other side of the spectrum, you have regular perks that do next to nothing. Monstrous Shrine, why? Why is that even a perk? Like, what is that? Honestly, what is that?
It's the best perk in the game.
What dev greenlit that? He was like, you know what would make it really, really fun? If we go ahead and put a perk in the game that is literally under the stipulation that you have to take it to Basement Hook, where 95+% of the hooks are not going. And not only that, it does so little that it's ridiculous. It really is, because I believe what is the full thing of Monstrous Shrine? It takes away like 11% of the chances of you escaping. I think you get more blood points for it, like 15% more blood points. Yeah, 15% more blood points, and then it takes it's a 15% higher penalty for the escape chance, and then a 6% chance. A 6% faster entity progression rate. Now, when I'm rapid firing all of those like benefits from it, you're like, bro, this perk has 3 different effects. It has to be good. It's not. It is not. There is no way around it. this perk is terrible. Hence the reason why you never see it. You might see it once when all the freaking stars align. Okay? Like, not even a blue moon. No. It has to be like a freaking orange moon or something like that. You have to see this moon bright lit up like the freaking rainbow in order for you to see this perk ever used. Because half the time, the only time it's ever used is used ironically. I'm guaranteeing you that. Because somebody like us, for example, who's doing a challenge, they'll do it on purpose. I'm not gonna lie. Some people make basement builds. But guess what? They usually don't end up winning because of that. It's so difficult.
They'll probably walk away with like 1 or 2 kills.
Maybe. And that's pushing it. It's just bad because, like I said, most of the time, that's why, like, just offerings like the, the sacrificial oak not sacrificial oak, petrified oak that actually, makes the hooks further away. That's why that could be so powerful with just one, offering. And that's it. And like I said again, if you're not running like a perk like agitation, and what are the odds of somebody running agitation? Like I said, agitation is only good. Many perks for killers are actually only good in a specific build. No perks are really good by themselves like that. Now, I'm not going to say no perks because there are some that are actually freaking nutty. I already know what everybody's thinking, but yes, I'm going to say it. Barbecue and chili. Barbecue and chili is a powerful perk, but not for the reason that everybody's saying. Everybody says that barbecue and chili is broken for the aura reading. I'm going to be 100% with you. It's actually not. It's powerful. Do not get me wrong. It is very powerful with the aura reading. But, I mean, half of the time, if you're not running barbecue and chili, you'll more or less find another survivor around the same amount of time that you would if you had barbecue and chili. And I'm not going to lie, sometimes just basic gameplay mechanics like the freaking generators and stuff, or other auras, or whatever the case is, sometimes they block your vision to where you can't even see the person that it's trying to highlight for you. I can't tell you how many times I've been playing and I hook somebody, and then they're on a generator, but on it at an angle to where the actual aura of the generator is showing, and it's over them. So I can't see them. And then there are other times where I hook them relatively close or whatever to other survivors, or they just get within range to where I can't read it anymore. Because it has to be 40 full meters, which is actually bigger than just about every character's terror radius.
Yeah.
So if you can't hear them, most likely you're going to get marked with barbecue and chili. But how many times are you actually that far away from the killer? Let's be 100% with you. If you're in a chase and let's just say
actually on Midwich, I think Midwich might be the smallest map in the game.
Yeah, I think so.
Because whenever I was running barbecue on that map, I wouldn't see anyone.
You never do. And like I said, that's a lot of indoor maps. That's like a lot of problems for like indoor maps, except for maybe for Hawkins. And even that, like most of the time, most of the gens are actually pretty close to one another. So that's where barbecue kind of means nothing. You know what I mean? So, and then the BP gain, it's just a nice little thing to add. I'm gonna be 100% with you. It's just something nice to have in the game. Because David has the same perk, We're Gonna Live Forever, but backwards, you know? So it's just pretty much a killer equivalent to that. And it is what it is. Other perks like, what other perks? Pop Goes the Weasel. That's also a really good and really strong perk no matter really what build it's running. Unless you're running Ruin with it and it just never gets cleansed, then it's just, you just brought another perk for no reason. But, I mean, at that point, the main powerful point about Pop Goes the Weasel is because it's really, the actual percentage that it takes away from a gen doesn't change. It's always 25%. You know what I mean? So that's like really strong. Like 25% on every gen. The only difference like between leveling it up is just how much time you have to use it. Because it goes from what? It goes from 30 seconds to 40 to 60, right? So it's powerful, but for a different reason. What's another perk? Like, not trying to be
For
like that.
killer?
Yeah, what's another really strong perk by itself for killer?
By itself. You know, I've seen survivors complain about a lot recently. Lethal Pursuer.
Lethal Pursuer, I feel like that's another really strong perk, but you have to remember, Corrupt Intervention, that's another one too.
Oh,
But
yeah.
both of those are really strong perks, but you have to remember that this is an entire perk that is going to be used at the beginning of the match and nothing else. Lethal Pursuer, the only reason why Lethal Pursuer can be good is if you're running it on how Davian does it with a Huntress. Like, that's about it. I want to be 100% with you because for people who have been playing this game for as long as we have, 300 plus hours on PC alone, like, for playing it the amount that we have, and and not knowing by now that wherever you spawn, almost 100% of the time, they're going to spawn on the opposite side of the map. Wherever you are, the survivors will be on the other side. I can't tell you how many times I've actually spawned into a match, walked forward like 15 feet, and saw a survivor straight ahead. Because they really do spawn on the opposite side of the map. Everybody who plays freaking, like, with the exception of games like of maps like Haddonfield, you know what I mean, or like an indoor map or whatever the case is. With the exception of that, you kind of already know where everybody is going to be is pretty much like 90% of the time. Like I said, the 10% are the maps that are indoors, or if they're running a certain shroud, or like I said again, if you're playing on Haddonfield where the actual spawns are kind of different.
Yeah.
But for the most part, Lethal Pursuer is just it's good for lower ranks that don't know that. Or if you're trying to go for a trick shot, like I said with Huntress. But for
Cross
the
map.
most, yeah, a cross map. Or if you're just trying to, I guess, teleport right there with Nurse, but I mean, like I said, at that point, I already know where they are, so I mean, I can do that anyway.
Be an easy pull-off off of Gen.
I suppose, but that's only if they, like, initially start one. Like, if you're like, for example, if you're playing Michael or whatever, and we're running Lethal Pursuer, and you're able to get over to them fast enough, which you won't, but let's just assume that you can. You get over there fast enough, you get a pull off of the Gen. So you get one hook before any of the things start. Yeah, that's within the first 30 seconds, so that's actually really strong. But at the same time, you have to understand that they could have already pretty much, if there were two people on a Gen, they could have finished a Gen within the first 30 seconds. You know what I mean? They could have, or at least about to finish it. It makes it to where
The time where I actually used it really good was on Yamoka State. Those two survivors next to the main house, and I hit both of them with the Huntress.
Yeah, that's the only like real instance, and that's if people are running Huntress. But I'm gonna tell you right now, actually at higher ranks, people don't run Huntress like that. They do, but they don't. Like, it's weird. It's weird. Huntress is such a powerful killer, but I feel like you see more of the licensed killers than really anything else at the higher ranks. Am I wrong for that? I know you
More
play
Nurse
Survivor.
and Spirit.
Yeah, I know that you play Survivor a little bit more than me, but freaking like you said, Nurse and Spirit, because those are the two like most broken characters in the game.
Yeah.
At least
I
for
really
killers.
haven't seen that much Huntress lately too.
Yeah, you don't see Huntress like that.
I saw her more on PS4.
Yeah, you
Maybe
don't
because
see,
I have more hours, but
yeah, you don't see Huntress like that in higher ranks, and that's the only time that I can possibly see the perks being that single perk being that powerful. But you have to also remember, even if it is that powerful, it's only that powerful for 9 seconds. 9, that's it. 9 full seconds of seeing the auras, that's it.
if you have it maxed.
Yes, and that's if you have it maxed. And then it's gone for the entirety of the match now. There's no more use of it, it's gone. Like, and the thing is, that's so stupid on a lot of different reasons. But whatever. We're just going to assume that, like I said, it's powerful for the actual perk that it is, and it can be powerful in just about every build, but you have to understand, like I said again, just with like a Hex or something like that, that takes up an entire perk slot, and it's gone immediately. Now, Corrupt Intervention isn't like that. Corrupt Intervention actually stays a little bit longer. because it's 2 full minutes of blocking 3 of the nearest gens, meaning that they can't. It's almost impossible to gen rush you. I say almost because you can still do the other 4 gens and then just wait for the last ones by the time the 2 minutes are up. If you can't find anybody by then you just suck at killer and you need to stop, okay? There are only 4 available gens. So, the survivors are almost bound to be on one of them. And you mean to tell me that if they were able to finish every single one of those gens, with you not being able to stop them, in that 2 minutes, you just need to accept that L. I'm sorry. But these perks are like the only perks that you really see once you start getting into high ranks. You see Ruin, true, but I mean, you have to more or less, like, cause yes, the killer can see the aura of his hex totems, not incorrect, but unless he's running Thrill of the Hunt, which is also a trash freaking hex, but we'll talk about that in a second, like, unless they're running something like that, you never really know when they're on your totem. You don't get a notification. You don't get anything unless they're running maybe Undying, and Undying's only good for that reason. Well, that and the fact that it will move the hex totem, but I mean, half the time, it's always going to be the Undying anyway.
Old Undying was way more OP.
Yeah, Old Undying was broken, but it's no reason anymore.
It'd move it to until there was no more dual totems left on the map.
Yeah, that's when frickin' Dead by Daylight, I feel, didn't know its own rules, so... But now it knows its rules.
It's funny, because that was, I think, last year.
But going into
Blight
the perk
really isn't that old.
No,
the killer.
Nah, but
what, he's before Twins, right?
Yeah, he was before Twins.
Yeah, I think he's right before Twins.
But no, going into Noed, like the toxic perks, I guess you can say, for killer. Noed is a very the reason why I don't like Noed is not the reason that a lot of people don't like Noed. I don't like Noed because it kind of promotes bad habits. You know what I mean? It makes you extremely reliant on the end game, which is terrible. Now, I've seen a Spirit, not gonna lie, I've seen a Spirit run Barbecue and Chili, Noed, Pop Goes the Weasel, and Blood Warden. And so when they downed somebody, and we were able to open the gate because we were already like, oh crap, it's Noed. You know, so we're going to open the gate and everything like that. Get it ready so that way when somebody goes and like cleanses the totem or goes and gets the person off the hook, we can just run and we're good. But no, because like I said, Blood Warden, for those of you who don't know what Blood Warden does, it blocks the exit gates for 60 seconds at rank 3. At level 3, it blocks the exit gates for 60 seconds once they're powered and opened, and you get a hook. So, yeah, perks like that are disgusting if I just say them out loud. But you have to understand that almost every perk for killer side, you have to do something. You have to actually do something in order for it to work. There's no like automatic activation. There's no just, oh, you'll do it eventually type thing. No. You have to actually do something. And that's why I feel like a lot of killer perks are a lot different than survivor perks. And this goes back to, like I said, except for things like Noed, to kind of where they just automatically activate and people get upset about that. And it's a very toxic perk. It's considered a toxic perk even for killers. Even for like most killers, running Noed is seen like as a freaking baby move. And that's a little crazy that is like one of the only perks on killer side that kind of has just automatic activation that is actually somewhat decent. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because like what other perk does that? I don't think any other perk really does that.
No other perk.
Like, cause Bamboozle
Not that I know of.
Bamboozle kinda does it. Like, to where all you have to do is vault the window. You do it faster anyway. You do it faster and you get the
It's still time though.
Yeah, it's still time. As opposed to Noed that just happens automatically.
It lasts forever until it's
like
cleansed.
I said, barbecue and chili, same thing. Considered a quote unquote toxic or a cancer build or whatever the case is. But you have to hook survivors for it to even be useful. So if you can't get a hook on a survivor, or if you only hook like 2 survivors, that's a whole perk slot for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you're just looking at it for the BP game, you still have to hook all 4 survivors at least one time.
Yeah.
Corrupt Intervention, that's another one, but again, that's gone in the first 2 minutes of the match, so it's expelled its purpose at the end anyway. Thanat is pretty much garbage now. Like, Thanat is honestly just, I wouldn't say garbage, but it's just not even nearly as good as it should be.
Yeah.
Sloppy Butcher doesn't really do too much unless you're running Thanat, so...
That healing build.
Yeah, because that's the thing. That's why so many, like, so many
but
killers...
But Thanat doesn't affect healing anymore.
Yeah, like, that's the thing. That's why you have to run Sloppy with it. But,
Or Phobia.
Yeah. But that's the thing, like, once you play Killer a substantial amount, you have to understand that the best way to play Killer is to make builds around a certain playstyle. And that's the only way that like, most of these perks end up getting used in any regard anyway. And that's bad on for a lot of different reasons. That's terrible. But that's enough about the Killer perks, I suppose. We'll still talk about it, obviously, throughout the rest of this, but let's go over to the Survivor side now. Now, you may have heard me and Davian talking about how a lot of Killer perks, you have to do so much to do, and it seems like every perk feels like it's either being called toxic by the other side, or whatever the case is. Now let's go over to Survivor side, where it's the exact opposite. You aren't even really called toxic anymore. I'll be 100% with you with exhaustion perks, because I feel like that's the first thing that everybody wants us to talk about. Like, everybody wants us to get our opinions out on that right away. Exhaustion perks, as much as I may hate them, I wouldn't call them toxic. It's just part of the game. And for that reason, I'm not going to call it toxic. I'm not going to pretend that it's fun to play against, because honestly, it's not. I'm gonna be 100% with you. It's not that fun to play against, but it's not toxic. However, there's always gonna be a but. But they are very, very difficult to counter as most killers. Now, I'm not going to say all killers, because I can tell you right now, if you're running coup de grace against a Dead Hard, you're getting that hit. Okay? I'm sorry, it's just gonna happen. Or if you're running Nurse against a Sprint Burst or a Life, you'll catch up right away, trust me. But you won't be running across people like that all the time. So you get to a lot of the perks or whatever, Dead Hard, frickin' Sprint Burst, Life, Smash Hit, what else? Balance Landing, Head On. Perks like that are horrible. And for those of you, again, those 12 people who are watching this and don't understand what a frickin' exhaustion perk is, an exhaustion perk is pretty much a perk that activates an action that gives you the exhaustion status effect. That means that you can no longer use any of the exhaustion perks left in your build. The only perk that has an exception to this rule is Adrenaline. And Adrenaline, how it works is that if you're on the ground, or whatever the case is, once all the gates have been powered, or once the hatch has been closed, once all generators are done or hatch is closed, you receive a sprint burst for 5 seconds, to where you move 150% normal speed for 5 seconds, and you get healed automatically for 1 health state. Now, for most exhaustion perks, I'm gonna say this, most exhaustion perks actually don't change from level 1 to level 3. The only thing that changes about them is the actual duration of your exhaustion status effect. So if you, let's just say Dead Hard or whatever, you play Dead Hard or whatever the case is, now all you have to do is just press E when you're injured or whatever the case is, or whatever your interact button is. I don't know what yours is.
Press E to win.
But no, you press a certain button, it activates, and then you have exhaustion status effect at rank 1 for 60 seconds, rank 2 for 50, and then rank 3 for 40. Now, obviously, the lower the exhaustion, the better, because that means you get to use it sooner. But the reason why I say that these perks are toxic to killers or just bad to play against is because there's no real counter to them. I'm gonna be 100% with you. Like I said, as opposed to those two instances that I mentioned before, because nobody runs coup de grace, and unless you're going against like some red ranks, you're almost never really gonna go against a freaking decent nerf. Like, so you don't really have to worry about that. And like I said, that's 2 times out of the millions of possibilities that could happen when it comes to using an exhaustion perk effectively. And like I said, almost every exhaustion perk, apart from Dead Hard or Smash Hit, you don't have to really do anything. Like, you don't have to do anything for your perk to activate. Like, for example, Smash Hit, how that works is that you have to drop a pallet and stun a killer. Does it have to be a pallet, or can it just...
Yeah, pallet.
Okay. Once you pallet stun a killer, you get the exhaustion, you pretty much get a sprint burst for 3 seconds. So, and then you have the exhaustion status effect. Or, for Dead Hard, like I said, if you're in the injured state, you're able to move actually pretty quickly in any direction, and negate all damage that would have came from that direction. So, like I said, unless you're running a perk coup de grace, which actually extends your lunge by 60% at rank 3, that sounds like a lot, because it is a lot. But the only time that you actually really see that perk shine is if you're going against somebody who's running Dead Hard and you're lunging already at them and they use Dead Hard. Because by the time that their Dead Hard is over, you still will be like finishing the rest of your lunge. And that sounds disgusting to a certain extent because, like I said, it does extend your lunge and that is very powerful. However, the odds of you being able to connect that hit of you actually using it in that scenario is actually pretty freaking low. And because most people do not run coup de grace. And once you get into like higher ranks and stuff, you start noticing the same perks across every survivor. And that's because every survivor runs the exact same perks at higher ranks. I know that that's called meta and all that stuff, but I mean, variety would also be nice. But, you know, it is what it is. So, another perk that's also really powerful that I feel like we need to talk about is Unbreakable. How many times have you been playing a game as a killer, or even as a survivor, and see a situation where, like, well, that person's dead, because they're dead on hook, or whatever the case is, and all of a sudden, the killer downs them. He's waiting for their decisive strike to run out. We'll talk about that in a second. They're waiting for decisive strike to run out, or whatever the case is, and they leave them on the ground. And then they get up, and because they've been on the ground for so long, they got their sprint burst or whatever back, and now they're gone.
Or Soul Guard.
Soul Guard, that's only powerful if they're running a hex. If they're not running a hex, that's like another perk that is
like most killers will be running a hex though.
Well, I mean, not me.
Yeah, I know, not you,
yeah.
but talking about the other killers.
The other 500 killers that are playing. Because let's be honest, there's not that many killers. I want to be 100% with you. There's not. It's just not. But we'll get into that in a minute. So yeah, I feel like perks for killers and survivors are powerful, but I do feel like the survivor perks, especially exhaustion perks, are extremely powerful for you doing next to nothing. Like, for example, Spine Chill. Spine Chill literally gives you a benefit if the killer is doing their job correctly. Like, honestly, that's crazy. If they look at you, you get a bonus. Like, that's crazy. That doesn't make any sense. And then again, resilience, another thing. You staying injured, which is happening most of the time if you can't find somebody or if you don't have the self-care option, you're gonna stay injured because you don't have an option. So, the killer hitting you and actually making it, and actually doing their job makes your job easier. Or, another one, for example, if you're, what's the name? DS, which is Decisive Strike. It's an anti-tunnel perk, quote unquote. I can't tell you how many times though that I have not tunneled somebody because it's 60 seconds off hook. But I cannot tell you how many times I have downed somebody, and there are only, let's just say, 2 people left in the match. Or heck, we'll say 3. There's everybody else in the match. So I down the person, or whatever. I go, I down somebody, I hook them, and then I come back to the other person to put them back on the hook because they were going to crawl away and get up and stuff. And then decide to strike hits. I'm not tunneling at that point. I'm not tunneling. I'm not trying to actually go for this person specifically. It's just I was only able to get this other person in that time. I gave them however much time it was between me downing that person and hooking that person for your teammates to come over and pick you up. That is not tunneling. That is playing a little cheeky, I'm not gonna lie. Downing a person who more or less just get off hook is actually kind of cheeky. But if you're not hooking them immediately, if you're not putting them immediately back on the hook, then that's not tunneling. You're not tunneling the person. You're downing them strategically, trying to bring other survivors or whatever closer, but you're committing to a completely different chase, which is giving them more than enough time to get the person up from the ground. But because, let's just say it was only 45 seconds that you gave them, you were able to go back, they were still on the ground, you pick them up, you get decisive strike now. And then that's it, the person's gone or whatever the case is. I mean, yeah, decisive strike can only happen once a game, but you have to understand that it's such a powerful perk, especially in the end game. Like, that perk is disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not gonna lie, there are some perks that are actually pretty freaking trash, like slippery meat. Slippery meat, I don't know why I keep getting that in my freaking blood web, but that perk is honestly garbage. Because all it does...
It's top tier.
No, because all it does, it allows you to get off, it allows less of a penalty per every hook escape. And I believe at rank 3, it actually allows you to get like 6 attempts to try and escape a hook? 6 or 7 or something like that?
Yeah, 6.
Yeah, so 6 full attempts to get off of a hook. Now, I don't know in what situation you will ever need to run that, but I mean, if you do run it, and let's just say you're trying to clutch it out or whatever the case is, you'd have to have some pretty bad freaking luck in order to not get off at least one time out of like 5 games, okay?
Especially if they're running Jar of Salty Lips.
Yeah,
oh.
especially if they're running something like that, that already increases your likelihood of getting off.
And up the ante. Oh, that's just... Don't even try it anymore.
So, I don't see it as an issue. Like, I don't see it as like a powerful perk. But then again, you have a perk like Prove Thyself that everybody runs as well. Oh, I also wanted to talk about that. Freaking Resilience and Spine Chill and Small Game, the 3 like super powerful perks, are all just regular perks.
Small Game?
None of them are bound to a character. Every survivor can get them in their blood web. Every survivor. And that is actually really, really, really strong for no reason. But let's go back into Prove Thyself. Because we've talked about really perks that help out in chases. We've talked about perks that help out in healing. Well, actually we haven't. Like Will Make It, which is another perk that is extremely strong. And that is, again, just a regular perk. I guess I'm just now realizing how many are just regular perks that people are using. Good lord. But let's talk about Borrowed Time and Prove Thyself. Borrowed Time, that can be used as an anti-tunnel perk. But the actual way that people use it is terrible. And I guess we'll get into that a little bit more when we talk about playstyles. But it's atrocious. It's honestly horrible. And it's not fun. I'm gonna tell you right now. You get 12 seconds off of the hook to where you can take 2 hits. 1 hit doesn't down you, but puts you into a mending state. Meaning that if you stand still for, 20 seconds, you'll go down. And in what world is a survivor ever standing still for 20 seconds?
Trying to body block the killer from their teammate.
And even then, I'm pretty sure that doesn't even count because they're moving still.
Unless it's in the doorway and they're just standing there.
Yeah.
That's the only time.
And then you have Prove Thyself, which actually adds, what is it, 15%? An increase of 15%.
Is it?
I'm pretty sure, yeah. Check it for me. But if I'm not incorrect, it's an increase of 15% on top of, what's the name? On top of giving you, I think, 100% more BP. Just more BP. It doesn't actually like add on.
Yeah, it's 15%.
Yeah, 15% for every single person that is on a generator with you. And it only goes up to, if I'm not wrong, 3 people. So you and then the other 2 on the generator. But that's still 45% on top of, if I'm not wrong, the additional like what is it like? Because if all 3 of you are doing a gen, doesn't it go by not at 100%? It's like 155 or something like that, right? Because it's all 3 of you.
I think so. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so.
So
Because
like,
by yourself, I think it's 80 seconds.
yeah, by yourself it's 80 seconds. With 2 people, it's a minute. With 3 people, it's about 45 seconds. And then with Prove Thyself, it brings it down to 30. You have brought from 80 to 30. And in what world are you not going to be doing a gen with somebody else at least one time throughout the match? There are only 7 available generators. Meaning that once you guys do, what is it, 3 of them, there's 4 left. That means that only in that scenario would you ever really see some, like, one survivor on each individual gen, and that's stupid at that point. That's just the survivors being dumb. The perks for survivors are extremely powerful and extremely difficult to counter in a lot of different scenarios. And those scenarios segue us into the play styles that people decide to take up in this game. And the reason why I wanted to talk about play styles is because we're talking about borrowed time. For example, of what like a toxic or a common play style, I should just say. A common play style is for when somebody gets a hook rescue, for the person whoever just got off of the hook to take the BT hit. Because they won't go down. They'll only get the burst of stuff because of the burst of speed because of the actual hit, and they don't go down. All they have to do is mend afterwards. And then the other person, let's just say they were in the injured state, is no longer down. And now the killer is stopped because they have to do the little animation after getting the hit. And it's just it makes it immensely difficult for a killer.
Save the best for last.
Yeah, unless they're, well, I mean, even then though, you still have to remember that they're fast, that they're gone now, and that you had to still go through the animation. It was just quicker. I feel like the playstyles. I wanted to talk about gen rushing in this playstyle, in the playstyle category, because that's actually a playstyle that the dev said is an effective playstyle. So I wanted to talk about that.
Yeah, they also said tunneling's effective.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that too. Tunneling and camping, gen rushing, and then bully squads. I feel like bully squads are toxic. Just people just trying to be mean for no reason. Trying to be as unsportsmanlike as humanly possible. And I suppose at the end of the day, you are entitled to do that. Because nobody's really going to be able to stop you because they're just going to say they're not bullying you as 3 people load in with flashlights and one person with a med kit with a brand new part. I mean, not med kit, a toolbox with a brand new part on it. So while one person, let's just say you chasing down one person, you have 2 people right next to you ready to blind you. Or for example, the gen rushing strat, where everybody is running a generator-based setup, and everybody's running, let's just say, a toolbox with a brand new part. And for those of you who don't know, a brand new part, if you hit the 2 additional skill checks, let's just say you missed those skill checks. Let's do that. If you miss the skill checks, that's still 15% progress on top of the progress that you're already doing. If 2 people are on a generator, they can finish that gen in about 30 seconds. And now let's just say everybody in your game has brought the brand new part. And like I said, this is all assuming that you're missing the skill checks in order to install the brand new part correctly. So, because if you do install it, it's 25 because it bumps up. And you get 2 rather difficult skill checks. Each skill check, let's be honest though, when they say difficult, it's really not that difficult. But you get 2 skill checks, and if you hit both of those, you add the part, and that is 25. That is now 25% progress on the generator already, with 1 add-on. It doesn't consume your med kit. I keep saying med kit. It doesn't consume your toolbox. It doesn't make you lose anything. It's just an add-on. And that is too powerful for no reason.
An add-on that everyone can have on at once.
Exactly. It's not something that, and we'll talk about add-ons, I suppose, when we get into playstyles for killers in a little bit. But add-ons for survivors are broken for no reason. Or for example, like I said, the bully squad can also have it like a bunch of medkits with the anti-hemorrhaging syringe that heals somebody an entire health state after 16 seconds, which is longer than most chases. So if you start at the beginning of a chase with the freaking syringe, more than likely halfway through that chase you'll freaking be fully healed again.
Yeah, I remember before it used to be an instant heal.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah. And that's just, it's too difficult to try and play against as a killer. As a survivor, it's the greatest thing in the world because it's like, hey, I'm getting my objective done quicker, which is the reason why many survivors do it, and also the reason why the devs say it is a valid strategy for both instances. However, that's like camping in Call of Duty. You know what I mean? Yeah, technically it's a very effective and very like smart strategy, I guess you can say, but it's generally frowned upon and seen as a toxic, like easy win style of play. Like no skill having people will do that.
Yeah.
And that's why I feel like gen rushing is terrible. And bully squads as well. And we'll get into like other things like later with the players. But yeah. And so now going over to the killer side of things. Well, I guess is it the killer side or is this the survivor side at this point? With the tunneling and the camping.
Yeah, we can go back to killer side.
Okay, because I was just saying like what would you classify this as? Because like I said, we were saying like gen rushing and stuff is bad for the killer. And then, but we were also talking about bully squads and stuff. So we're like, we were on, I guess, the killer side talking about it. But now let's go over to the survivor side and talk about tunneling and camping. Okay. Tunneling, the proper way of tunneling is downing somebody, putting them on the hook. Once they get unhooked, you go after the person who got unhooked. Now, again, not only was that considered a quote-unquote valid strategy by the devs, it is the worst way to play Dead by Daylight, in my opinion at least. As a killer main, I feel like that is the most toxic way to play the game. And now, obviously, I don't think like everybody else does. I know this. And I'm glad about it. But the fact of the matter is that tunneling is effective, but also really, really, really cancerous. What are your thoughts on it, Davian? I've been talking this whole time. You said something.
About the tunneling?
Yeah, about tunneling and camping. Or if you want to go back to gen rushing and stuff, like it's up to you.
For tunneling, me, I don't really tunnel unless it's only one time I'll ever tunnel in spacing TTVs.
There you have it, folks. Don't have TTV in your name.
Yeah.
That is actually, like, unfortunately, that is a common thing that many, many killers do. They tunnel, they go after people who have TTV in their name. But
yeah.
no.
You gotta show their viewers who's the better killer.
The only time I could possibly ever see tunneling being a warranted thing is if the enemy team is being toxic, therefore being a bully squad, or if they have a key. But we'll talk about that in a minute. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was camping. Now, face camping or proxy camping, any form of camping is horrid for a survivor to deal with. And it is, but the way that I see it, the same way that that I see, for example, if a killer, what's the name?
I won't ever face camp.
Yeah,
The
never
only
face camp.
time I'll proxy
Is if like all the exit, if all the generators are
the
done
egg.
and the
Yeah.
exit, and the exit
Yep.
has been open.
Yep.
That's the only time that I ever see proxying being like, okay, yeah, because it's like, what else are you gonna do? You know what I mean? You're more or less just giving them a free rescue at that point.
Yeah.
Like, what else can the killer even do? If the gates are open and it's only one, and let's just say you have that person on the hook, there's no point in trying to go for the other killers, for the other survivors, especially if they're freaking full health, because almost 1,000,000% of the time they will already be at the exit gate. So let's just say one stays behind or whatever the case is to go get the person, and then the other two stay at the exit gate. Now let's just say I go to the exit gate to try and be like, oh, don't proxy camp and all this other stuff. Now I go to the exit gate, those two leave, oh snap, the other person done left, freaking got the person off the hook, I hit him, but oh no, he has borrowed time, now they both get out. It's just stupid at that point. So if you ever see somebody face camping or proxy camping at the end of the match where all the generators have been powered or the gate is open, then don't feel upset as a survivor, because it's not that they just suck, it's just that they want to at least secure the one kill that they can get, because that's literally all they're going to get. And on the other side, so that's why I feel like camping is terrible, because camping is very, very toxic for many reasons that I shouldn't have to explain, but you know, that's the whole point of me doing this. That's the whole point of us talking about this, so that we can explain it. Camping is toxic because it literally encourages the worst style of play, and it offers no chance for the survivor to enjoy the rest of the match. Now, a lot of people, we'll talk about this in a second, but a lot of people will not care about it, about like having fun or whatever the case is, just freaking winning the game, which I suppose is fine, but the entire point of playing the game is so that both sides have fun. But
You say you camp and have fun?
no,
No, you don't.
No, oh yeah, oh yeah. If you're
not
saying
having
to
fun.
yourself that you have fun camping, you know you're lying, because all
Yeah.
you're doing is just being a troll, because you know you're gonna get the other person upset. So, and I guess it's the question: do you think gen rushing and tunneling are equal in their toxicity, or camping, or whatever the case is?
What was the question?
Do you think that tunneling and or camping is equal in toxicity to gen rushing?
I wouldn't say tunneling, no.
Mm-hmm.
Camping, yes. But not as much.
As gen rushing?
Mm-hmm.
And why do you feel that?
Gen rushing, you really can't do anything about that, especially if they're halfway across the map.
Mm-hmm.
But camping, you have time to plan it out.
That is
Unless
true.
you're going against a Bubba, and he's just sitting there with his chainsaw ready to go go.
But I mean, like, let's be honest. Like, most of the time when you see somebody camping like that, it's always a Bubba. It's always a Bubba. It just is.
That's why. So yeah,
But
camping.
you feel like camping is about the same as gen rushing?
Mm-hmm.
But, and you guys gotta also remember, we're speaking a little bit, we're trying to be as unbiased and as factual as possible. We do have a little bit of bias because we do both play killer a substantial amount, but we have put our fair share of time into Survivor, let me tell you. And that's the reason why I feel like we are pretty qualified to say something like this, is because tunneling is toxic, but you have to understand, there are hundreds, well, not hundreds, if that'd be a little crazy, but there are a lot of scenarios where, there are a lot, and I do mean a lot, of anti-tunnel perks. And then there are also a bunch of resources that you can use in the map to allow you to get away, to prolong it, whatever the issue is that would help you beat tunneling easily. And especially if you're going against somebody who already kind of is pretty bad, or whatever the case is. But, like, let's just say, like, one person is running a killer. and they're able to run them for 2 gens before they get on their first hook. Now they start. Now they're watching out. They're proxy camping or whatever the case is, and then the person comes and they go straight after you who just got off of the hook. Not only are you going to be able to run them most likely for the rest of the match, but if they hook you again, your teammates will have more than enough time to come and get you before the killer will be able to beat you. That's why most killers actually will not tunnel, because it's quote unquote effective. But unless your team is just trying their hardest to prevent you from dying, there's no way that you're gonna lose. Like, because if they're doing that, then it's just, okay, tunnel this person to all 3 hooks. Now I'm going for the next person, all 3 hooks and stuff like that, you know? And they just start going down. But unless they're doing that, there's no way that tunneling should be that big of a deal. Because it's easy to beat. Because like I said, there are also anti-tunnel perks like Borrow Time, Borrow Time, Decisive Strike, and there are plenty of exhaustion perks in the game for survivors to use in order to beat it. Like, there's a lot of things that you can do as a survivor. All you have to do is play your cards correctly. If you play your cards correctly, I guarantee you will have it. And I suppose that I guess the same thing can be said for gen rushing, but at the same time, no, it can't actually. Because gen rushing, unless you're running, and even if you're running like something like, let's just say Ruin, because most killers will run Ruin at higher ranks and stuff like that, and Ruin makes it to where normal, like, it automatically regresses for 200%, meaning that if somebody were to kick a gen or whatever the case is, it's going back for 100%. But now it's going back for 200%. But that's if you're able to pressure them off of the gen in the first place. And now if one person is running you and the rest of your team is gen rushing, then there's nothing you can really do about it. And to properly define, I guess, gen rushing, that is when 3 or more gens are done within the first 3 minutes of the match.
Yeah.
Within the first 3 minutes, only 1, maybe 2 gens should be completed. Like, and that's if the killer is playing correctly. If the killer is playing completely correctly and 3 gens are still done within the first 3 minutes of the match, that is gen rushing. That is gen rushing. There is no way around it. There is no way of trying to make it sound better. There is no way to try and defend it. That is gen rushing 100%. And it's toxic. It's hard for a killer to do anything against that. Because at the end of the day, whenever you gen rush as a survivor, you know you're not getting any blood points for it. Because at most, you're getting the 8,000 for your objective, true, 100% true. And for the person, whoever is running the killer, or whoever ends up running the killer throughout the rest of the match, you might get like 4,000 for that, and then you get 5,000 or whatever for the escaping. Meaning that at most, in a normal gen rushing match, you will maybe see 18,000 blood points. While the killer will have substantially more. And now the killer still loses, of course, and you still get the win, but all you're going to do is safety pip. You're just going to keep safety pipping, meaning that you're going to be in the same rank regardless of whatever you do. That's why so many people are like, oh, Survivor side is so much harder to climb. Well, that's because you're not playing the game right. I guess that's the best way of describing gen rushing. You're not playing the game as it was meant to be intended. Same thing with tunneling. People who tunnel or people who camp, they will most likely only really safety pick. And half the time, they don't even do that. I'm gonna be 100% with you. If you're face camping somebody, you're gonna get that 1 kill and that's it. Me and Davian were playing the match against the Spirit, who Davian ran for about 2.5 gens and then face camped. We all got out. Everybody except Davian. And she deranked. We know she deranked. We watched it happen. Because that's not an effective strategy. It's really not. If you're in an SWF or whatever the case is, and somebody announces to one of the other people that they are face camping, we're not going to. Why risk it? Why try and go over there? There's no point. So you just do the rest of the gens, and everybody else gets out. Yeah, it takes away the fun for that one individual, but you have to understand that it takes away the fun for the rest of the match, because the rest of the match is not having fun. It's not the game anymore. It's more or less just do generator simulator. And you have to understand that you're not even having fun as a killer. So it's stupid. As opposed to you being able to gen rush and still at least safety pick. But that's all you're going to do. reason why gen rushing, camping, tunneling, all that stuff is horrible, horrible, horrible. But I guess that goes back to the next point, which is the players. And how people are. The people who play this game. I guess we can group this in, because I was going to say players and then toxicity, but I guess we can group all of this into toxicity, because that's what we've been talking about this whole time. So, let's just go on to the types of players that we encounter in our games, Davian. Survivor and Killer. Where do you want to start?
I don't even know.
It's just... It's bad. I guess bottom line, it's just bad. Or at least it can be. Because I'm going to be 100% honest with you. How many times have we gotten into a match and then the killer was actually pretty freaking cool? Like, not even the killers who, like, give you a game or something like that. But I mean killers who play respectfully, stuff like that. That happens actually quite often, doesn't it? At least in lower ranks. We start getting into higher ranks. No. I'm gonna be honest. Killers at higher ranks.
Ghostface, I don't remember.
Say it again?
When we went up against that Ghostface last night.
Yeah. Ghostface, I mean, because we met up with a Ghostface last night who was, who gave us a win. Who completely gave us the win. No way around it. He gave us the win. But it was he more or less just gave, like I said, he gave us the win. I don't know how else to say it. And that was pretty nice of him.
Didn't even hook us.
Yeah, didn't hook us, like, I think he hooked you once.
He hooked me twice.
Oh, he hooked you
just
twice.
because I tried my hardest to get hooked.
Because half the time, I'm going to tell you, like, any decent survivor will tell you that, what's the name? Once they are given a game, quote unquote, like, they will do everything in their power to make sure that the killer also safeties. Like, any good survivor will also try and help the killer at least safety. They might not pip, because I think for Ruthless, you have to, like, max out everything and then get everybody to death hook. To second hook. I think that's the only way that you could get that you can, like, actually pip up for a killer if you don't kill somebody. But for a survivor, all you have to do is really escape. You escape and you're safe. So, it's like just trying to get everything else. I ended up pipping up twice that match because of him, because I was able to max out everything. And then him, but he deranked.
Yeah.
And on one hand, that's fine, because, you know, it was fun enough to where, like, oh, it was cool, like, that he was so, like, chill about it and stuff like that. You know, it was fun in that regard. But I mean, just regular having fun in a match, like I said, just a normal match, but somebody's playing respectfully, that's also really, really entertaining. And the only downside is that doesn't happen as often as it should. Like, how many times have you been in a match and see a freaking survivor clicking their flashlight a million times if they stun you or they teabag? It's toxic.
Way too many.
It's toxic. It's disrespectful. It's rude. It's all of the above when it comes to bad behavior. It's BM, bad manners. And just like with a killer or whatever, who is able to get it down on you or whatever the case is, and then shakes their head. Unless it's warranted by you teabagging or clicking your flashlight in the beginning, like, none of that's gonna happen. Or people who teabag at the freaking exit gate. Like, I will tell you 100% of the time, I will see more toxic behavior from survivors than I ever will see from killers. Mainly because, you know, like I said, I'm a killer main, so I don't see too many other killers. But, I mean, even when I do play survivor, the only toxic is, like I said, is like camping and stuff like that. And that's toxic on a whole nother level. But I just mean, like, small bad manners, unsportsmanlike conduct. So, it's terrible. But then again, you get people who are really chill about the game. You know, who are fun to play with, who are fun to play against, who played fairly, who played as fairly as you possibly can. And then there are others who play extremely unfairly. You know, like I said, people who say, oh, I don't care about tunneling, or I don't care about, about running you for this long and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Oh, I don't care about using all these exhaustion perks to make sure that I didn't lose. Or, like I said, bringing all the brain parts or whatever the case is, you know? There are people on both sides of the spectrum that can be very calm and very cool to play against, and then there are other people who are just the absolute worst to try and play. And it's annoying either way you look at it. Let's go on to the maps now. That's enough talking about the players, more or less. Maps. How do you feel the maps are in this game?
The maps? Oh my god. I'd say there's only like maybe 4, 5 good maps.
I think you're giving them I think you might be giving them a little too much credit there. But the reason why we say that the maps are actually pretty bad is because it kind of goes back to the balanced thing again. Like, we're talking about, when we talk about a good map, we mean a good map for either side. We mean a good map for either survivors or a good map for survivors and killers, instead of just being, only survivors. Because I'm going to be 100% with you, that's about every map is only survivors. But there are quite a few very good maps for both sides. Now I will say this, there are actually quite a few maps that are more killer-sided than you may think. Like indoor maps, for example. Apart from characters like Blight, most indoor maps are actually pretty powerful for killers. Are actually pretty useful. I can't tell you how many times I've been running Bubba on Hawkins or whatever, getting mercilesses like every game. It's so easy to do that on an indoor map because there's no way that they can go. The open maps are where they the survivors are freaking untouchable with Bubba. But I mean maps they fall into 3 categories. Either they're, like I said, the 5 maybe good maps that are in this game, to where both sides have a pretty decent chance of winning and or losing a match. The second category, which is it is completely survivor-sided, to where there is nothing that they can do. Or 3, the map is just awful for everybody. Raccoon City.
No one likes that map.
Nobody likes Raccoon City. I'm sorry, anybody who loved Resident Evil or loves the chapter, but Raccoon City is terrible. It's awful. It's horrible. There's no way around it. It is the worst map in the game. For killers or survivors, okay? Because for killers, it's stupid because where in the actual hell are all of the hooks? The hooks are just non-existent. They're just nowhere. Or, how the freak am I? Why is it this room has no actual way for me to cut off the survivor up with this pallet right here? Once they drop this pallet, if I do not break it, they can loot me forever.
The weapons locker.
Yeah, they can just loot me for literally ever if I do not drop the pallet, if I do not break the pallet. Or, okay, I can't play Bubba because the corridors are, like I said, Bubba excels on freaking indoor maps, and I can't even play Bubba on Raccoon City because the corridors are just too freaking tight. I can't turn around. Ugh, it's horrible. That map is trash. Or if you're for Survivor, where in the crap are all of the generators? Oh, it's horrible. Unless you're running Deja Vu on Raccoon City, playing that map for Survivor is almost impossible. So bad. It's so bad. That map is so trash. And then you have Haddonfield, which falls into the second category of being completely survivor-sided. No killer excels on that map. No killer. I've played Haddonfield with, I'm pretty sure by now, every single killer except maybe Blight. And that's only because I don't play him. I'm still level 1 with the guy, so. That is maybe the only killer in the entire game that I have not played frickin' Haddonfield with. I've played Haddonfield with every other killer, and I can guarantee you, the odds of me even getting a single kill on Haddonfield are laughably low. And like I said, I'm a rank 2. I know how to play this game. And it's still horrible.
Yeah, it's bad.
It's so bad. And then you have the ones that fall into the actual good category, like, I would say Auto Haze is actually a pretty good map for both sides, right? because it has a decent amount of indoor spaces. It doesn't have an overly aggressive freaking playstyle for killers. I mean, for survivors to play against the killer, because there aren't actually that many, like, there's more doors on the map that are like, that get broken than pallets, if I'm 100%. Because I feel like the pallets on that map are actually pretty generous to killers. There are a lot of vaulting locations, however. The vaults, they are everywhere on that map. But that's what gives it the advantage to the survivor. But the maps in this game, they all need to be like reworked. Like half of them just need to be reworked, or just get some maps that are, you know, fair for both sides, instead of just saying nope, screw you, killer, or nope, screw you, survivor. Like there's no, like we said, there's barely any in between in any regard, and that's horrible. That is literally horrible. Alright, but let's go into, I guess we kind of touched on this earlier, countering certain things. Like exhaustion perks, or countering no way. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this game, when it comes to countering, is actually doing a halfway decent job of it. I say halfway decent, because not until Oni was dropped, we had no character. Well, actually, we did have a character. Not until Demogorgon was dropped, which was over a year ago. I understand, but not until then did we really have anything that already like applied the exhaustion status effect and countered exhaustion perks like that. Sure, we had the Huntress, but I mean, like I said again,
only add-ons.
Yeah, only add-ons did it, and only a few add-ons did it. The only one that even comes to mind was the Huntress. There were no perks. There were no perks anywhere that could do it. Despite the fact that freaking a default, like one of the default characters, Meg, had 2 of the 3 exhaustion perks, dude. Like two of her perks were exhaustion perks. She had sprint burst and adrenaline. Both of those are hers. That is awful. And then, like I said again, for the fact that that the exhaustion perks were so powerful, it was so difficult to actually beat it. It's hard to beat exhaustion perks a lot of the time. Now, I'm not, like I said again, I'm not gonna lie and say that they're unbeatable. Like even without perks like Mind Break or Blood Echo, I'm not going to say that it's impossible. But it's just it's too difficult for you to go against, considering the fact that they can get it back easily. But I mean, I feel like they do count. Like the best way to counter any hex, obviously, is just cleanse it. Best way to counter no ed, cleanse all the totems, or cleanse the no ed totem. It is still a hex, so once it activates, you can be able to break it. It's not that bad. And there are so many like totem like perks for freaking survivors. Like I said, small game, which for those of you who don't run small game like that, it goes from a 45-degree angle to where in front of you, like your peripheral vision and all that stuff, to where you are able to actually, like, you get a notification every, I believe, 5 seconds for, like, if a totem is within that. So you go over there, you cleanse it, and every time you cleanse it, you gain a stack, and it narrows it by 5 degrees every time. Meaning that once you have 4 totems cleansed, or whatever the case is, whenever you hear it ping, go directly, almost in a straight line, in the direction that you see the ping from. Because almost guaranteed, 100% of the time, it will be there. And that's why small game is powerful. Counter Force, it gives you the actual, it literally gives you the freaking, all the totem locations. It gives you the aura of the farthest totem for 5 seconds.
For which one? Small game.
Force.
Oh, Counter Force? No, 4 seconds max.
4 seconds. Yeah. So it gives
2
you,
seconds. So it goes from 2, 3, and then 4.
Yeah. So it gives you the location of the farthest totem in 4 seconds. Which doesn't
And
sound
you
like
cleanse totems faster.
Yeah, and you cleanse totems faster, and you don't get
Your
the
first...
effect of the totem. Meaning that if you, like, let's just say somebody's running Retribution or whatever, to where you get the Oblivious status effect if you're cleaning a dull totem.
I'm pretty sure you'll still get the effect.
I don't think so, actually.
It's after you cleanse the dull totem, that's when you get the Oblivious status effect. For 45 seconds.
But it's because it's as soon as you touch it. That's how you know if they're running Retribution.
No, it's after.
And then for Hex, and like once you clean a Hex totem, you get revealed for 10 seconds. Are you sure?
Yeah.
Check it for me.
I'm
just
sure.
to be 100%. But yeah, it's, and then you have Detective's Hunch, which gives you the aura of anything 64 meters from you. So that's like pretty much double a normal killer's terror radius. It gives you the location of every tool, of every chest, and every totem within that radius. And it stays there for 10 seconds, if I'm not wrong, 10 or 12.
Oh, okay, yeah, then it says survivors cleansing a dual totem suffer from the oblivious status effect for 35, 40, and 45 seconds.
Yeah.
So it'll stay even if they cleanse the dual totem.
Mm-hmm. And then best way to, like I said, counter tunneling would be Decisive Strike. Best way to counter slugging, Unbreakable, or Tenacity. Or Metal of Man, or no Mither. But no Mither, nobody runs no Mither. Now let's talk about killers. I wanted to talk about killers specifically. I was going to say killers and survivors because of the fact that like both sides can use adjustments, but I mean like really adjusting one survivor wouldn't be the same as if you adjusted a freaking killer. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Because each killer actually has a different like setup and way that you can play them, as opposed to the survivors where they're all more or less the same, just different character models. But the killers, I feel like, could use a buff of sorts. I feel like they're all like the year one killers for the most part. I guess you can call them year one killers, but all like the base killers. I feel like Trapper for sure, Trapper, Wraith, Hillbilly to a certain extent, Doctor. I feel like Doctor's actually in a decent spot right now.
Yeah, it's because his rework.
Yeah, his rework. I feel like he's in a decent spot. Huntress is fine. She's still extremely powerful. Hag, again, like really
Nurse
strong.
is pretty good.
Nurse is also really good. I think that's all of the... Oh, Clown. Clown, I feel like his tonic needs, like, it needs to take less time to activate, because half the time, I'm going to guarantee you, Clown isn't using the freaking yellow one, because it doesn't do that much. It only gives you a 15% boost, and that's only temporary. I think it's like 5 seconds after you leave the cloud that you get that boost. If it's not 5, it's 3, meaning that you run at 130 speed. But I mean, that's not that much. Like, I'm gonna be 100% with you, especially when it's only temporary. If it was permanent,
yeah.
like if you pair that with freaking play with your food, then yeah, that is disgusting. But other than that, what's the point? You know what I mean? His first tonic is still fine though. You know, the fact that it hinders and all that stuff. The first tonic's still pretty fine. I feel like the twins is in a decent spot. You just don't see very many of them because most people still don't know how to freaking use them, which is kind of funny. Trickster. You see a lot more tricksters because of the rework now.
Mm-hmm.
Blight. I feel like Blight needs an add-on or something that allows him to just initially start a deadly sprint. But let's just say that it's only like that the speed is nullified, because I think he runs at like 217, which is disgusting in any regard.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
It's faster than Hillbilly's chainsaw.
Yeah, that's horrible. That's literally horrible. So, like I said, freaking 200 and something is ridiculous. So if he had an add-on that halved his speed, but made it to where he initially starts in like a lethal rush, that'd be fine. I'd be fine with that add-on. You'd see Blight being chosen a lot more, because right now you never see a Blight unless they're freaking doing like JP freaking flicks and stuff like that. That's it. Let's be honest here. You don't see Blights like that because he's too difficult of a character to try and use, because you have to bump into a wall at first. And by that time, like, most people know that you have to bump into a wall at first. So it's like, what's the point of, like, why in the world, all I gotta do is just make a sharp corner and all of a sudden he's gonna miss. He gotta go through his whole animation just like with Nurse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a lot. But I mean, I feel like he's in a decent spot right now. I just feel like he could be in a much better spot if they just make that one change, just make one of his add-ons. You know what I mean? It doesn't even have to be like a freaking. It doesn't even have to be like a normal one. It could be an iridescent. That's fine. But I don't know. I feel like Nurse is in a decent spot. I do feel like that her that the one thing about her is that after the hit, like a blink hit or whatever, like miss or hit, I feel like the second after you freaking do it, I feel like there should be no pause and that you should instantly start fatiguing. Because if you actually miss as a nurse, you go back to as if you're holding it, and then you start fatiguing. So that extra second may not seem like a lot to other people, but in a game like Dead by Daylight, where especially if you're playing killer, and a split second like is really important and determines like the win or loss of a game, like that's really bad. And I understand that makes it to where Nurse takes more skill because it's like, oh, now you really got to hit your shots. But at the same time, like it's hard for anyone to really get into her. I feel like for the most part, a lot of other killers are actually in a pretty decent spot. Like most of the licensed ones are actually pretty powerful. Like they're just their base kit. Except for I feel like Pig could definitely use a change. The thing that's annoying about Pig is just the fact that freaking her ability, it's too RNG based. It's similar to that of Trapper, and I feel like that's where both of those kind of fall flat as killers. It's that their traps are too heavy on RNG. Yes, I understand that it has the potential. The trap has the potential to literally kill somebody at stage 1. A fully healthy survivor at stage 1 has the ability to die at just about any given moment if they have bad luck or whatever the case is. But my thing to you is that it gives you more than enough time, unless you don't know where they are, which you will never not know because it literally gives you a notification. It gives you the auras of all the traps around you. So you will never not know which ones to go to. And like I said, this is going on the assumption that they're not chasing you and you're just going from place to place. Now, if they start a chase, the timer stops. You know what I mean? And also, you have to understand that it only activates once you're generated. So, and you only have 4 of them as the Pig. So I feel like if you change that, if you change it to where she has an unlimited number of them, but it takes, let's just say, longer to have it, but it takes a little bit longer to search a box or whatever the case is. Whatever needs to happen to buff the Pig, you need to do it. Okay? Because I feel like her power is useless unless you don't know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, or you're trying to be altruistic to other people, like, cause that's the thing. That's the whole point of the Pig. It's like, it's really the whole Jigsaw make your choice type thing. It's like, you either choose to help other people, or you choose to help yourself. So, that's actually quite poetic for a Jigsaw killer. But I mean, that's just how it is. So, it is what it is. Yeah, for the most part, I feel like most killers are actually in a pretty good spot. I feel like Deathslinger, like I said, Nemesis, Demogorgon, Freddy, Cannibal, I feel like all of them are actually in a really strong position. I do feel like if anybody needs to like get a quote-unquote nerf, it would be Spirit a little bit. I feel like the best way to counter that is to have it to where to where her husk actually slowly loses her terror radius. The longer you're in it, the lower your terror radius becomes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like that would actually make it to where she'd have a little bit better counterplay. Because she has counterplay. Don't get me wrong, she does. And like that one guy said, oh, you have to have tracking skills. To a certain extent, that is actually pretty true. But I'm not, as a killer main, the Spirit is broken. Okay? She is. For you to not do it means that you are negating a lot of things. And I know that they buffed Iron Will to make it to where it would counter the Spirit a little bit better. But if you're not running Iron Will, or On the other hand, if you're what's the name? If you're a spirit and you just know how to track correctly, then yeah, you're able to beat her, and you're able to win as a spirit almost like 80% of the time. It's ridiculous. But like I said again, it all goes back to you knowing what you're doing. If you don't, then you're not going to be able to beat it. And I guess goes down to one of our final topics. It's just, what do you think the future of the game is?
Future of the game. I don't know. I don't really see it going anywhere unless it gets a competitor. Because if it just stays the way it is right now, I feel like people are going to start leaving with all the bugs.
Yeah. And then, like I said, just the community that takes on the game. I feel like this game could be like something like, because it is considered like an esports game. It is, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, they have their own comp teams and all that.
Yeah, despite the fact that there is no actual comp in this game. I feel like this game though could be so much better if they just focused on, because we all know that the schedule of DBD is actually a quarterly schedule, meaning that every 3 months or so they're going to be releasing a really big update with new killers, new cosmetics and stuff like that, and a new chapter, whole new chapter every 3 months or so, which is good to one extent, but also really bad because it makes them have to focus on dropping the killers instead of focusing on fixing the base game. And the base game right now is in a frightening state because we're not necessarily losing people, because actually between last year and this year, more people have actually got onto Dead by Daylight. But I'm not going to sit here and say that it's been the best people to get onto Dead by Daylight.
Yeah.
It definitely hasn't. I feel like this game has the potential to be something amazing. Has the potential to be a really, really fun and almost timeless game. Like this was one of the top horror games and like multiplayer-based games like of this playstyle, because Dead by Daylight is very different than just about every other multiplayer experience. Like I said, the only one that even comes close to mimicking this would be Friday the 13th, and both have their own perspectives and their own playstyles for both sides of the game. Like for example, in Dead by Daylight, you can't necessarily like beat a killer into submission. You technically can, but that's not what you're doing. Like that's not how the devs intended the game to be played. As opposed to in Friday the 13th, you literally have shotguns in the game to like fight Jason off. Like the games are very different, but that is like the only like somewhat like equivalent game to this one. And I do feel like it is a game that could be better, like in every regard. When it comes to the perks that are in it, when it comes to the people that are in it, when it comes to all that stuff. But I mean, I guess this gem just wouldn't be that big of a game if we did have everything perfected. Like I said, if everything is balanced, this game wouldn't be as big as it is. Do you have any extra thoughts, Davian? Or
No, not really. There's a lot we covered in there about perks and killers, maps. Did we go over? We went over keys, right?
No, we didn't actually. Keys are horrible. There's no way around it. Keys are the worst things in the game. Now let me explain. Okay? Let me explain. Keys are awful. Here's why. The killer can do everything right and still lose to a key. The survivor can do everything wrong and still win with a key. That's how powerful the keys are in this game. Now, I'm talking about the purple key and the red key. Screw the freaking green key. I don't even know why it's an option to have that in the game. But the dull key and the skeleton key are the most broken things in the game. And a lot of people who run it are in a bully squad. Like most of the time. They often end up going to a specific map, bringing the offering that guarantees that it spawns in main building or killer shack, and then that's it. Like, all they have to do is just complete the quest. They don't even have to open the thing, because that's the problem with the key. The only way I personally feel that you could fix keys is if you make it to where once the hatch is open, it immediately closes again. And if the killer were to close the hatch just stays closed. There's no way of opening it. That's the only way I could possibly see it being somewhat good. That's the only way I could possibly see it being okay. Ever. Horrible. What do you got to say on keys, Mr. Sir? You're the one who brought it up.
Oh my god, dude, keys. Just don't use them. That's all I'm gonna say. Just don't use them.
Don't use them. That's the best way of dealing with it. And I guess
the only way
Go ahead.
I could see you using it is if you're trying to get the fucking adept. That's it. That's the only way.
Because any other way, it's almost like you're trying to be toxic. Like you're not.
Yeah.
Because the objective of the survivors obviously is to escape, but most of the time it's through the gate, and therefore, if you exit through the hatch, then you're, especially if it's an entire team. Because like I said, most of the time, whenever somebody sees somebody with a key, whether you're solo queuing or whatever the case is, you know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
So once the freaking hatch spawns, just go over to it, and everybody can escape at the same time, and there's nothing that the killer can do about it. That's the only problem. There is no real counter to keys, because even if you run Franklin's, you still don't actually. The key only loses all of its charges, but guess what? Even with no charges, the key can still open the hatch. That is stupid in too many ways. It's the same thing with like it's almost similar to that of a med kit that still has like a syringe in it. If a med kit has one charge, you can use that and use a syringe. Like literally, that is horrible.
Disgusting.
That's why I feel like keys are just don't put them in the game. Just it was dumb adding them to the game. I suppose we should go over some add-ons a little bit too.
What kind?
I guess just for killers and for survivor items and stuff. I feel like we already talked about like brand new part and the syringe pretty powerful, like how powerful they were, like pretty well actually. But we haven't really talked about the things that like add charges to them, which can be powerful, but only occasionally. I feel like medkit ones are more powerful than the other one because a lot of medkit, there's actually a few medkits in the game that tremendously increase the healing that you do to others. So if you're running like a We'll Make It build with that, you're literally healing people in like 5 seconds. Like honestly, like the second they get off of the hook or whatever the case is, they're almost automatically healed. It's broken. And then if you add charges to it, you make it to where that effect lasts longer in the game. Each charge equals 1 second of actual progress. Meaning that if you're on a generator or whatever the case is, 1%. No, it is 1 second. Yeah, 1 second. So if you don't have any charges or whatever the case is, like let's just say a toolbox for example. A toolbox that has 16 charges or whatever, when you use that, but it tremendously increases the speed at which things happen, that means you're using the toolbox faster, but you get more out of the toolbox. So for example, I believe it's Alex's toolbox if I'm not wrong, it's 16 seconds, it decreases sabotage time, but
yeah.
it tremendously increases.
Oh no, that's
mechanics. Oh, mechanics. Yeah. So how that works is that you lose actual time and usage of the toolbox, but because of the fact that you're just zooming through the freaking gen, I mean, one toolbox can get you like 20% on a gen. Like easily. And then like I said, if you're running freaking that with a brand new part or whatever the case is, that's 45% from one toolbox. Now let's just say everybody in the game brings it, that means 4 generators can be halfway done by the time that your toolbox runs out. And now that's assuming that you haven't put anything on it to increase the charges. And so that's why like certain add-ons for like things like that. Same thing with just about everything. Flashlights, the add-ons for flashlights are actually pretty forgiving. But for toolboxes and for freaking what is it? For medkits, it's not fair. And then going over, I guess, the killer add-ons. A lot of killer add-ons are actually useless. Let me just say that. They're freaking horrible. Like for example, the one for the twins that comes to mind, if I'm not wrong, it's the chandelier, or the candlestick, whatever you want to call it, where after charging a pounce fully, Victor roams silently. Why? Why would anybody ever run that? You can only put 2 add-ons per item, so why in the crap would I ever need to do that? Explain to me an instance, Davian. I want you to give me an instance where I would ever ever need for Victor to roam silently.
I guess they don't hear him? I know.
I know that's the point, but it's like, I mean, most of the time, the only time that you really ever unbind Victor is when you're freaking, like, you're chasing somebody. So if he's roaming silently, they can still see him. Like, I don't get
What do you need to do for him to roam silently, or is he just always roam silently?
No, if you fully charge a pounce.
Oh. So you don't just, it's not while you're always out with Victor?
No, you have to fully charge a pounce. And once you have a pounce fully charged, you walk slower. So what the frick is the point? There's no reason. There's no reason to ever run that. Or for example, like the one with what's the name? With Wraith. The one where like kicking a pallet or whatever completely uncloaks you. The only time I can ever see that happening is like to where that actually helps you is once a match. And I'm telling you, only once, because after one time it won't happen again, I guarantee it. But one time when somebody's like chasing or whatever, and they drop a pallet, and they're waiting for you to break it or whatever the case is, but you're still not getting out of the thing. But once you break it or whatever, you're out of it. Oh, snap, I got the hit. Oh, no, he has that add-on. Now, nobody else is going to do it. You get to do that maybe 4 times in a match if everybody's solo queuing. But, no, that add-on is horrible. Or the one example for freaking, what's her face? Oh, crap. And then you have some really, like, what the frick is that add-on? I'm triggered because I don't remember the add-on. I forgot who it was for, too. Fuck. Oh, the one for freaking, for Pyramid Head. The one that slightly increases your freaking, your killer instinct when they step in your stuff. That is so trivial on if that's even ever going to be useful. It's so bad.
Really don't even use his other add-ons except for the range increasing ones.
Exactly. Like, I use the one where, like, you get the undetectable status effect. That's so useless. Like, I didn't understand how useless it was. And that's an iridescent! That is an iridescent! That is horrible. But then on the other hand, you have some really powerful add-ons, like the freaking mother-daughter ring for Spirit. That just, it makes you asininely quick. I don't even think that's a word. We just made it up, because that's how quick you are, Spirit. Because I think normally, for Spirit, I think you move actually at like 176% when you just, with normal speed. But with this add-on, it bumps you up to like 250. Like, honestly, it's ridiculous. And then, like, let's just say you add another add-on or whatever, you're literally Sonic the Hedge Ghost. Like, you're just all over the place.
The Hedge Ghost.
What?
I don't know.
Like, or the all-seeing one for Wraith, another add-on that's actually really powerful. It's surprisingly only a purple, but I mean, it's only within like the close 12 meters, so I guess I get it. But it reveals survivors it reveals survivors as long as they're within 12 meters of you and you're cloaked. So when you're uncloaking, you start losing it, and when you are not cloaked, obviously you can't see them. So it's useful, but kind of useful. Any other add-on that's like that? I'm trying to think. Cause like most of the other add-ons are actually pretty balanced at iridescent. Like for example, the one for Trapper that automatically sets traps. That's useful only sometimes because of the fact that that like half the time the traps are in stupid spots.
Talking about Pinky Finger?
That one's broken too. Isn't that the one where if you hit them directly, they're exposed?
Yeah, with the bottle.
Yeah, that's good, but that's only good that's only good periodically. I feel like that's a lot of the add-ons for killers. Like I feel like a lot of them are only good periodically. Like for example, the Tombstone for infinite tier 3, and then the one where what is it? It's the Tombstone and what else? That makes him to where it's like he's able to kill
Tuft of Hair.
Yeah.
Tombstone's the one that he can kill. Tuft of Hair is infinite tier 3.
Yeah. So once you get those two, that's powerful. But the actual amount of stalking that you have to do is ridiculous. So by the time that you even get to tier 3, because both of them by themselves add I think another 20% that you need to stock, like overall time that you would need to stock in order to get it. So at the end, you have to stock for 150%. I believe it could be more. I could be completely wrong because you have to stock already for like if you had one survivor in front of you and you just stocked them completely, you would be able to get from tier 1 all the way to tier 3 normally. But with the Tuft of Hair and all that stuff, it makes it to where you have to stock almost 2 full survivors for you to get to tier 3 for the first time anyway. And but once you do, and that's assuming, like I said, that the survivors are just completely standing still, which will never happen. And if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure I'm wrong on that, because I think actually if you fully stock somebody into completion, you only get like halfway to tier 2. I mean to tier 3. So now you get out of tier 1 for sure, but I think you only get like halfway to tier 3 or whatever. Or am I wrong? I could be wrong. But let's just assume that what I said the first time was right, to where one person could get you to tier 2, and then you pretty much stalk them to completion almost. I mean to get you to tier 3, and then you're stalked to completion. So assuming that, like I said, if you do one of the add-ons, you have to do pretty much 2 full stalkings of survivors. And that's, like I said, again, assuming that they are standing there letting you stalk them. And finally, you have the Tuft of Hair and the Tombstone combo. And the Tombstone allows Jason, allows Michael to kill anybody, anytime. Anytime, meaning that he can kill a fully healthy survivor. A healthy survivor that has no hooks, he's able to grab you and more you right there. It's powerful. It's extremely powerful. Do not get me wrong. However, the actual odds of you getting there are not very high because of just how long it takes for you to be able to get there. I'm going to be 100% with you. That's why most people actually won't run that unless it's for the memes. Because it's so hard to try and get to tier 3 for the first time. Because of just how much stalking you have to do. What did you say, Davian?
Oh no, it's just a green.
Yeah. Sorry, like I said, I know that I've been talking for much of the time, but I just want you, I still want your opinion. I want you here. So.
Yeah.
What other like add-ons are nutty?
Nutty.
I'm trying to think, because for the most part, that's about it. Like, for the, like, ridiculously broken add-ons. I mean, there's one for Freddy that turns his Dream Snares into Dream Palace, but I mean, like, it's not nutty. It's powerful, don't get me wrong. That is extremely powerful for, like, no reason. But, I
think, Jason's add-on, where you could teleport across the map.
Jason?
Like, right, yeah, where you could teleport across the map right behind the survivor.
We're talking about this game. But nah, the add-ons are actually pretty good for Freddy. Now that I'm like thinking about it. Like, one of his, doesn't it, like, I think it blocks exit gates for 15 seconds. I think it's the match book or whatever it's called.
When someone opens an exit gate.
Yeah, it's blocked for like 15 seconds already. Plus the freaking minute that you can do it with Bloodborne. And then remember me in No Way Out? Ugh, disgusting combo. But like I said, it's a combo. It's not something that can just work on its own.
Yeah.
Because 15 seconds, let's be honest, if you get there in 15 seconds or whatever, it's not that powerful. It's really not. Because 15 seconds is like, you might be able to get one hook. You know what I mean? If you're right next to the freaking gate. Like, you still have to down them. Like, let's just say they're all fully HP. It's not gonna work. Yeah, and it's only once a match. And then you lose it.
I said, I just joined a game mid-match. Friday the 13th.
Oh, that's a rip. Oh, you're playing?
I don't know how. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's enough. We've covered, like you said, we covered a lot in this time. And there's obviously more that we could talk about. There's a lot of stuff that we didn't cover. Like I said, like the way that like certain things that the devs have planned and stuff like that. How a lot of the exhaustion perks do actually glitch out half of the time. And also how like certain like perks, it's very killer like dependent, I guess. Because let's just say no mither or something, you know what I mean? If you run no mither, yeah, that's powerful until you realize you start dropping blood orbs or whatever. You know what I mean? So now you just countered yourself into freaking extinction. You're dead. There's no way around it. You're dead. So, like, it's bad. But I mean, it's still fine. It's a decent game. I feel like it could be a lot better. We both feel that way, but
Game is dark.
We're gonna keep playing it. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys so much. Go ahead and subscribe. Don't subscribe to him. He doesn't have a YouTube channel. Subscribe to me. I will be discussing this probably later, probably in like another year or maybe like just later. I don't know. But we'll talk about it in another video. Hope you guys enjoy. And I'll see you next time.
Yep.